First things first, my 5th gallery has been out for a while now if you want to check out my new LBP music. It's on LBP 2, so it doesn't matter if you play on LBP free, so just fucking do it. Now that I've taken the time to get the instruments from the Tiki Paradise kit that came out recently, I'm going to review them for your convenience if you happen to plan on getting them yourself, but you want to know ahead of time if it's worth it. Percussion instrument. Okay, I don't say the names. This is one major complaint that people have been tossing around. The samples are all the way at the bottom of the keyboard. Why isn't it spread across all the fucking keys? Well, being a person who's worked with MIDI throughout the majority of his music, let me explain. In MIDI percussion, samples are assigned to individual keys on the keyboard, like how C3 is the kick and D3 is the snare. So they did the same thing for the instruments here instead of spreading out the samples to each individual octave. It's also a matter of remaining loyal to the realistic properties of the drums. So having multiple slices for a drum will not only provide a larger range for the drum in real life, but it will also give you an expanded keyboard here in LBP3, hence why the bongo has 4 octaves with differing pitch for each key before the next sample octave. It's also why the ramwong, for instance, has only one master pitch for all of the samples, because there are no different sizes for that drum, as far as I know at least, but I digress. Unfortunately, all percussion instrument samples are unmanipulable, which means you can't change the pitch of the samples, period. What you're stuck with is what you get, just 8 or 7 samples of a certain drum. Not only that, but the drums aren't very reverb friendly aside from the brush kit and surf kit, to a certain degree for that one. You'll mostly get treble focused reverb, which for percussion instruments sounds terrible. Especially if you use the cathedral reverb on drums like the ramwong and daiko. That is hell on your ears. And some of the samples for the instruments have a weird clipping noise, which is an absolute turnoff for music. Because not only does it add more to the bad reverb, but it's also very unprofessional when you don't bother fixing your sample recordings. Aside from category labeling breaking tradition, we have the Octoband and the Jill. Both instruments are terrible with high reverb, but they do sound pretty loyal to what instruments they are. For the Jill, only one sample is used, therefore it takes up little to no thermometer space on its own. The only bad thing about this is that there's no real diversity to the sound, and considering the nature of the Jill, that's not right. The timbre could have been used to sustain the sound, or make it sound more crass, because the Jill naturally sounds like it's distorted anyway. Oh yeah, man, natural amplification, my nigga! As for the Octoband, well, it's the Octoband. However, there is only one octave at your disposal, a sample for each note, therefore it takes up 2 units of thermal space. It's not that big of a deal to worry about when making music. Plus, it can make for some useful miniature toms. Why am I calling this instrument the gamelan instead of the gong? Well, it's pretty much the gamelan drum set, made of gongs. This instrument is solid. I absolutely love using this thing when I can. Note the fact that I said when I can. Because the samples are long and there's 6 freaking octaves at your disposal, it takes up half of the thermometer space by itself. The whole motif was a Tiki Paradise, so you had to see this coming. We already have drums filled with tropical water, so why not a guitar? But seriously, the surf guitar is one of the best instruments in this entire pack. Not only can it double as an electric guitar, even though that's already a bad idea because of the water, you can even use it like a Hawaiian guitar, and how appropriate too. The timbre order is reversed, where the tremolo vibrato is your starting sample, but if you turn the timbre up, you get a regular guitar with infinite sostenuto. That means sustain. The attack is a split second soft, the samples are long, therefore making it take up to 3 units of thermal space, so it's no better than the actual drum kits, and you have 5 octaves at your disposal. And you want to know what the best part is? It has a manipulable low frequency oscillator.
Nice.
And finally, the panpipes. Depending on what kind of musician you are, this is another instrument you'll keep kissing. The pan only has 4 octaves and runs on one sample, making its thermal space take up the bottom bulb. And its timbre is your typical and expected vibrato. My only problem with the instrument is the fact it sounds too airy, like it was meant to be played as a lower volume effect for a flute, but that's it. I don't really foresee myself using it that much in the future because the airy sound is too distracting for me, but that's just me. Don't let my standards influence yours. If you like the panpipes, then great. So this pack only costs $3.99, it's loaded with great content to use for your levels, and the instruments by themselves are just okay. To be honest, the only thing I'd use on a daily basis for my typical LBP music would be the surf guitar, the Octoband and Jill once in a while, and the Gamelan kit. Aside from that, the other instruments will probably be collecting dust. It's still upsetting that there's no timbre for the majority of the instruments. Even if it's supposed to abide by the logic of the instruments, that doesn't mean you should force the limitations upon the technical sound fonts in the game. The reason why people think of using the other instruments is because they have range, flexibility, diversity, and they spark potential inspiration with the sounds available. For the percussion, aside from the gong, I don't have that many ideas of what to do with the other instruments. The Daiko and Ram Wong are just drums and that's it. All you can do is use them for what they are instead of using them like a kick, a snare, ambient effects in music or anything. The same goes for the Octoband. Hell, my idea for using the Octoband with the standard drums in LBP came from the fact that the Octoband actually is used with the kit as additional toms. But it's hell on the thermometer limiting my ability to use the other instruments I want to use. Now, if I were to rank the instruments myself, it would be like this, from best to worst. And if I were to give the instruments a rating, it would have to be a 6.8 out of 10. The unfixed sound clips are unprofessional. The diversity of the instruments whilst being relevant to the motif of the pack is greatly appreciated. Most of the instruments sound bad with effects on. Some of the instruments are too loud for their own good, and they could be restricting of idealism with their limitations. And that should do it for this review. See you in the next one, because Little Big Planet announced that they're actually releasing another kit, and it's going to take me a while to get that one because I wasted my money on Spyro. End of recording.